Hello and welcome to the United Stand. It is Sunday Night Live and as per usual we've got absolutely loads to talk about. I've got two guests with me tonight. I'm going to fly straight into it. We'll be talking a new contract for De Gea. We'll be talking about Luke Shaw's new contract that he signed. We'll be talking about Lukaku, but we're first of all going to start off with some very telling comments from Jose Mourinho in his post-match conference last night that I didn't even pick up on them, and I don't think many did until today. Does he trust Anthony Martial? Basically, he was asked about why Martial didn't play in so many ways, and effectively he said, if we'd been 2-0 up, I would have brought Martial and Lingard on, but at 1-0 we didn't have that luxury, so I went defensive. Defensive against the Southampton team that struggles to score goals. Defensive against the side that we were dominating in that first half. We'll start with Ross, then I'm going to go to Flex. What is your thoughts on this, Ross? Does he just not trust Martial, or even Lingard for that matter, when it's a tight game? And was he right? Well, he was right yesterday, but is he effectively saying that Martial's a luxury?
I don't think so. I think when you bring a player on in a game like that, it's really hard to catch up with the match rhythm straight away, and it's just a risk bringing any new player on, I think, apart from obviously centre-backs and that. So I think if it was the other way around and it was Martial on, you wouldn't be wanting to bring Rashford on if Martial was playing so well. And Rashford had a bit of a poor game, but defensively he was on point, to be honest. And he is probably a little bit more defensive than Martial, but I think it made sense, to be honest. It was the right decision. It was the right call, and it just made sense to me. And I don't think it's a lack of faith in Martial. I just think defensively Rashford is better, and Rashford did support Ashley Young quite well in that second half. And I know we were poor, but it was my favourite victory from the season, to be honest, because it was really nice to watch us grind out a win rather than concede a late goal.
Yeah, I mean, I said that yesterday as well, and I think we did need to do it just to show that we can do it dirty as well as pretty. But welcome to the show, Flex, first of all.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And, well, I was going to just pick up on what Ross was saying there. I felt that what we did by sitting back against Southampton, because there was so much space, I'd love to have seen Martial and Lingard come on for Matic and Mkhitaryan and for us to kill them off. But we got away with it, but I think we actually sort of invited Southampton on. It was a bit like, you know, a bit of a mismatch in a boxing game. We're dominating them in the first few rounds. We've won on points, but for the last few rounds, we just stick our chin out and say, you can't knock us out. And that's the danger, isn't it? When well, I feel it's a danger. I think Martial should have come on yesterday and we would have won it 2 or 3-0. But do you think Mourinho sees him as a luxury player? What do you think about those comments that he didn't use him because we weren't 2-0 up?
Yeah, I think what you've got to remember is this is Jose Mourinho. This is, you know, probably one of the safest managers going in terms of when he does win titles and how he wins them. Jose Mourinho is not your most exciting manager. He's not. He doesn't think of expansive first. He thinks of safety. He thinks of, am I solid? He thinks, you know, what's the best way of me getting 3 points? First of all, that's just the type of manager that Jose Mourinho is. So I do believe if you're trying to think, you know, do we need to go and win this game 2-0, or do I need to sort of shut up shop? That's where Mourinho is gonna make those defensive decisions. I mean, it would be nice to see Martial come on, but it's not every game we're going to have where the opposition is tiring and we can sort of bring those players in and make that difference. Sometimes, across a 38-game season, we're going to have to do that in some games, because the 3 points on Jose Mourinho's mind is all that matters. It is all that matters. And yes, it's nice to win 5-0, 4-0 and play expansive football, which, you know, to a certain extent we've been doing. But there's going to be certain games we just can't do it. And upsetting the defensive balance and the muscle of the team and the discipline of the team to try and go forward the other way, I think it was the right call. I agree with Ross. I think it isn't really a case of he didn't want to bring Martial in, because, you know, we've been seeing in the weeks that have been happening that it's been like a good little tussle between Martial and Rashford for that starting spot. One doesn't score, the other does, and vice versa. But when you're away, I know it's easy to say that Southampton don't score many, but at that stage of the game, they're bringing on another forward. Why do we have to go toe-to-toe at that stage? Let's shore it up. Mourinho's done it time and time again. His time at Chelsea, when he was a bit more pragmatic at Inter Milan. He's not afraid to shut up shop, as we know, and I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, well, I'm going to disagree with you both. I felt there was a lot of space in that game, and I think we stuck our chin out and we could have got knocked out. Fortunately, Southampton struggled to score goals, and defensively, we were very, very strong. But I just felt Martial's banging form not to play him was a mistake. But well, it wasn't a mistake, was it? Because we won. But I do worry about I worry about I worry about that approach. I think we're better than that, and we'll see what happens, won't we, in coming weeks. I'm certainly very happy, and I do agree with Ross that we needed a result like that, because there's a lot of people in the comments tonight, and I was going to throw that back to you, Ross, on about Man City. I don't know where this is coming from, but give us your thoughts on it, because there's obviously a lot of people feeling it, and maybe you do as well. Andrew Ellis saying we've got no chance of winning this title with Mourinho if he's going to go defensive against Southampton. City would have just gone up a gear and beaten 4 or 5-0, which I actually agree they probably would have done, but it's still 3 points. But some people are already conceding this title to City. Last time I checked, we've got the same points.
Exactly, and last time I checked, I think City had more points last season than they do at the same point this season. Just goes to show you how quickly it can rapidly spiral downhill. I couldn't believe it. I tweeted it out today, and I think it was Murphy on Match of the Day last night actually saying that he thinks United are going to win the title over City based on what we did in that game, based on the fact that we do have plan B and C. And I don't think City could do what we did in that game. Yeah, they might have scored 2-3 goals, whatever, but I don't know if they can hold out like that. And you have to do that in key games across the season. Fergie did it, and we all have to do it. So I'm not worried about City. Like Mourinho said in his press conference, we both got 3 points. Whether it was 6-0, 7-0, 5-0 or 1-0, you're getting the same 3 points regardless. So you just move on. The next game's a new game, and it's 3 points there. And look, City are banging form at the minute, I'll give them that. But, you know, they're going to slip up at some points, and it's up to Jose Mourinho and the way he maps out a season, like we all know he does, where he knows where he's going to get points and he knows where he's probably going to drop points and have to go a bit negative. And I think over a season in the Premier League, Jose Mourinho and what United have more than City, which is just plan Bs and Cs.
We've had it once in our life where we've lost the title to City on goal difference, and we'll never forget it. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you right now, this title will not be dealt with on goal difference. So let City go and win 5 or 6-0 every week. It's going to be the amount of points that matter, and I ain't concerned about City at the moment. They've spent a lot more money than us, and I think we've got a better team morale. And to be honest, it's a cliche, but I believe that when the going gets tough in the winter, City will bottle it, and I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I think we're better equipped to do it. But one of the things I did want to talk about, Flex, and I don't know what your thoughts are, obviously new to the show. If the game yesterday, I can't think of one chance other than the Herrera one late on. That chance from Lukaku, for me, was the best chance of the game for any team. It was a chance of it was a game of very few chances, and that was the best chance. It came from a cross. A month ago, I don't think we even put a cross like... You know, what I'm trying to say is, because we've been on about it a long time, the importance of somebody who can put a cross in. Ashley Young's come back into that side, and I know he's not playing on his natural side, but it's an Ashley Young cross again. We've spoken about this a lot in the summer. My fear is that I just want Ashley Young to stay fit for as long as possible, because nobody else can put a cross in, but we're so deadly with the height. You know, Mourinho loves height. We've got so much height in there. And basically, I think if Ashley Young's not on the pitch yesterday, we don't win that game because we don't create that chance.
Yeah, it's a really weird one, to be honest with you, because I think people look at Youngie and think that can't be our left back or our right back. You know, he's been a winger for most of his career, and if you actually look at him, you wouldn't think he was a Manchester United player. I think what you got to look at is certain players are good for certain games. Do you know what I mean? And certain times of games. And I think with yesterday's win, you're right. If it wasn't for Young, you know, consistently putting the ball into the box, you could argue that we didn't win, and it was the best chance of the game. And I think Mourinho's starting to do that with a lot of our players. He's getting them to realise what their roles in the team actually are. You know, because 2 years ago under Van Gaal, Ashley Young's like our starting right back. You know, and we're thinking, well, what's going on here? So I do think it's about learning who's best placed for what, and I think we're getting that at the minute. I mean, I know it isn't the exact same player, but I listened to a caller the other day talk about Fellaini, and it's the same thing with him. Mourinho's now getting players to understand and realise what their role is within the team. You know, Fellaini coming on and being that big, powerful player where we need him to be, not every game. I think that's where it's coming on. Mourinho's starting to get the best out of the players in terms of knowing where they chip in, basically, and where they fit into the jigsaw.
Yeah, well, Nathan was on the show last night talking about Fellaini, and I totally agree with it. But I'm not going to say anything about Fellaini tonight. George Kyle, I've read your comment. I saw Beck saying George don't start, so I searched back for it, and George is basically saying in-swinging cross as well, Mark, which is the most dangerous. I know he's trying to wind me up because I don't like the in-swinging cross. I prefer the natural cross. I prefer Ashley Young on the right. But he's the best crosser in the team, and he can certainly, you know, Lukaku did really well from that. It was a great save by Forster. But, you know, one cross, one to rule them all, as Vince Chapman just said there. Lamar says, are we sending the wrong message to the players by being negative once we're not playing well? Nah, these are professional footballers, Lamar, and so's Jose Mourinho. He'll be fully aware that yesterday was brilliant, and he'll be very happy with it, like Ross was saying, because there wasn't many chances in the game. Last season we were having loads of chances and missing them. This season, one chance, one goal, and we win 1-0. That's what champions do. So I think the negativity comes from the fact that we were a little bit negative about Southampton. It's fine. We should celebrate it. We won the game. But I do think we showed too much respect to Southampton. But you know what? I don't care. We still won a game that I knew was going to be very difficult. And Everton, I thought, would be difficult as well. And we won that 4-0. So the point... I don't know what you think, Ross, but I was thinking last night. There's things I think about before I go to bed. I'm sure there's better things I could look at. But last night I was actually annoyed still about the Stoke 2 points dropped, because I did say after the Stoke game that teams will go there and batter them. They're not that good. Lo and behold, Chelsea go and beat them 4-0. But you're going to get that during the season, but that already is 2 points dropped. And I know it's greedy to say that because we'd have a 100% win record if we'd beaten Stoke, but that was 2 defensive errors. We scored 2 away goals. That was 3 points. But that's the greed is coming back amongst United fans, and it's great because I've been a United fan for many years, and I remember what it was like under Sir Alex Ferguson. And people call it moaning. It's not moaning. It's just the psyche of Manchester United that even when you're winning, you're still moaning because you're like, we've got to be the best.
Yeah, I agree, but it's interesting when you look at the points per fixture as what we were doing last season against teams like Everton, Swansea. We were drawing these games and we're actually winning them now, which is great. And going back to yesterday's victory, they're the sort of victories. I remember we used to win league titles and we'd go on a run of about 10 games where we were absolutely awful, and it would be United scrape a win again. And this is where it comes down to this. You're right, the crosses and the height, because we always had that as a go-to thing at United. We always used to score corners and crosses because when your team's not playing well, that's always going to be a source of goals. So I was pleased with it. And with the Martial thing as well, I do agree with what you're saying to bring him on, but we were so poor. I mean, the amount of times Valencia had the ball at right back and he was just hoofing it up, not even to Lukaku. The whole team was poor, and I think Jose read that. He read it early, and he was like, "We're playing crap. Let's consolidate it, and let's just get the 3 points." And I loved it, and that's why I'll keep saying it. It was my favourite victory because it just showed great character, and I'll be happy to win the next 5 games like that and bag 15 points rather than 4-5-0s, because, like you said, the title will not be won on goal difference this season whatsoever, and. And it's not just us. It's not just United fans. Other pundits are picking up on this as well. And I'll go back to him. I mean, Murphy hates United. And for him to come out and say that he thinks we'll probably win the league based on that performance is a massive statement with someone that absolutely hates us.
I'll tell you what, though, I don't know whether I presume you did watch Match of the Day last night, but it just shows you how they just jump on bandwagons and follow a script, because they were really positive about United, but totally the wrong players. They were like, Rashford was brilliant, Mkhitaryan was brilliant, and to be honest, having done the watch-along, they were the 2 players that got quite a lot of stick. So I just thought, the positivity's good, but you've clearly not watched the game.
That commentator, I did watch Match today, and the commentator was going, "Oh, Mkhitaryan, what a turn!" I thought Mkhitaryan was awful, and I don't know if you're going to talk about transfers, but we have been linked to Ozil recently, and I'm looking at Ozil, and I know he comes from a bitter rival, whatever, but if I swapped him out for Mkhitaryan, I think we'd be creating so many more chances, because Mkhitaryan loses the ball so much, it's infuriating.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player and he was fantastic at Dortmund and he's had a good start here. But I'll chuck you this question, Flex, actually, because David Carey says, I think Mkhitaryan is slowly showing that he ain't up to the Premier League. Very poor in hold-up play. Can't find the killer pass. When we get Griezmann, United will kill teams off more easily. It's been levelled at Mkhitaryan that, yeah, he's a bit of a stat padder. He's a bit of an Ozil, really. You know, he's getting his stats up in the last 10-15 minutes of games when they're, you know, and winning them. But in the first 70 minutes, there's a lot of United fans who are getting a little bit frustrated with him. What's your thoughts on Mkhitaryan?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, isn't it, with Mkhitaryan? Because when he first come, it's like, where is this guy? Why is he not playing? We know what a phenomenal player he has been in the Bundesliga. Top assist, obviously, the year before he came to us. He gets his chance. He starts playing well last year. And then we're sort of ranting and raving about him. And then we expect him to have a good pre-season and obviously come on strong. I mean, he started the season well in terms of the figures. But I agree with what you've been saying in past shows, and even when I've been watching him, he's non-existent. You know, like Ross says, he loses the ball a lot. He isn't creating as much. He isn't having as many shots, and you're sort of looking to him to think, Mickey, I need a bit more. But then he pops up in the last sort of 10-15 minutes, last sort of 5 minutes, and nicks an assist. So it's a difficult one. I think longer term going forward, I think potentially we could push Pogba further on, or even, you know, start playing Mata again in that position. We know how creative he can be in that position, and I see people writing about when we get Griezmann, if that's going to happen, and Ozil as a possible solution. I think this is why Mourinho was maybe so sceptical about playing him. Maybe you could see that in him, that you're just not giving me enough. You're just not quite there yet. And I think maybe that's actually what we're seeing now. Longer term, I think he needs to put a bigger shift in. I think we're not getting enough out of him, but in defence to him, if you're playing devil's advocate, he is popping up with the assists. So I think for now, his place is probably warranted just by the skin of his teeth. But as the season progresses and we get harder games and we play the so-called top 5, I think he might come unstuck unless he really pulls his finger out at the minute.
We've spoken about it a little bit. I'm just going to drop it there, and maybe we can talk about it in future weeks. But I've got a funny feeling that position is going to be Zlatan's when he comes back. He's got the number 10. We'll see. At the moment, I thought it was an odd idea before, but with the way, you know, I think it'd be a little bit better than Mkhitaryan at the moment. The Big Pupster, thanks for the contribution. He says, "Think yesterday's result was good. I'm almost 100% sure if that was last season we would have lost, and I blame the team for Martial not getting a run out." Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. It was a good point. And we've also had the David Carey one, which we've read. Yeah, well, Ross picked up on it, and Mourinho said it as well. I think he's right. You know, Martial or Lingard coming on may have been quite a toothless substitution because we were not getting the ball from back to front. We were poor in the midfield at that, and we were poor in defence of that. I think defensively we played really well. A lot of people were like, oh, how great Fellaini was, but offensively he was poor. Matic wasn't much better. We just grafted a result yesterday, and I tell you what, I hope we look back on them 3 points and say we did graft it. Just quickly on Matic before I move on to a couple of other things. Actually, I'd like to get the lads' opinion on this because Hell Team says Matic is being overhyped because he was signed from Chelsea. What's your thoughts on that, Ross?
Sorry, mate, I didn't catch the last sentence of that. What was that?
So Hell Team has said that Matic is being overhyped because we signed him from Chelsea.
Overhyped. That's the most delusional comment I've seen all day, to be honest. That's ridiculous. He's underhyped as far as I'm concerned. And I thought Jones got all the plaudits, and rightly so, for yesterday. But again, I thought Matic was faultless. I absolutely love him, and I love watching him. And I probably, like you, I don't know, Mark, but I didn't watch too much of him at Chelsea. I watched a little bit of him when he first started, and I thought he was a great sort of defensive player, but I didn't realise how sharp he was on the turn, his first touch. I mean, he just glides past players, and I'm putting down, 80% of our form this season down to having him in the team. I think he's been just the most ridiculous addition to our squad, and that is a Jose Mourinho masterclass, because You weren't the only one, Mark. I think me as well. A lot of United fans would have preferred another player across Europe, and we'd have probably all picked Fabinho over him. Now you can keep Fabinho. I don't even want to hear his name mentioned because Matic, for me, is the one. He's actually doing so well. I'm half considering getting his name on the back of my shirt.
I think at the moment he's arguably player of the year so far, player of the season so far, because him or Lukaku obviously for the goals, but he is the big reason we're not missing Pogba. I think if we had Fellaini and Herrera in there and no Matic, I don't think we'd have the points we do have. He's doing a fantastic job. But unlike Ross, I did watch a lot of Matic over the years, and the first season Mourinho won the title with Chelsea, he was fantastic. He was playing what he's like now. The last 2 years, well, the year Mourinho got the sack, he was rubbish. And last year, he's a shadow of the player he was this year. I mean, I know he won the title, but he was given a very restricted role. He wasn't expressing himself. I saw him play at Old Trafford in April, and I remember watching him play against Liverpool about a month before, where Kante was superb and he was very, very poor. But just unrecognisable. And that's where I based my I don't want him on, because I just saw this slow, static midfielder that... effectively, you know, I'm not a big fan of Conte, and I think Conte repressed Matic. Why would a player want to leave the champions desperately to come and play for Mourinho at United? I know we're really excited by that, but why would you when you've just won the title and you're going into the Champions League? I think it was because Mourinho was Conte was not playing how he wanted to play, and I think Mourinho saw a great opportunity there, Flex.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, Matic has been absolutely unplayable for us, and anyone who thinks differently is literally delusional. I agree with Ross in the fact that when we heard his name linked with us, I was a bit like, really? Oh, we need a holding midfielder, but surely we can get better than him. But I think he's proved his form that he had in Chelsea when they won the league with him the first time with Mourinho back. He's just been unplayable. He gives us that balance, and I think it goes down to this, and simplicity is key. And Matic's biggest attribute is simplicity. He knows his job, he knows what he's good at, and he just does it at a consistent 7 to 8 out of 10 plus every week. And I think that, you know, had we not have had him, we'd still be looking at pretty much the same pattern of play we had in a lot of games last year. So I think it's a huge plus we've got Matic in there, and I do agree. A midfield of Matic and Fellaini without Pogba, it is hurting us. That's a different debate. But the fact that Matic, you know, is in there ever present has clearly, absolutely clearly, made us a better team altogether this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Also, just want to talk about a couple of contract things that people may not be aware with, and get the lads' opinion on it. Luke Shaw signed the new contract in the summer. I think I was aware of this, but maybe it's just a thought I had, and I don't know whether it's just recently come out. But his contract was due to be expiring at the end of the year, but it's one of those rollover things that he's been given, so he won't go till 2019. But I'm sure we've discussed that before. Pardon the pun. And then De Gea, United are trying to get him down on a long-term contract. Ross, now you were one of the very few fans back in April who said he'll stay. I was adamant he's going to go. Didn't want him to, but I thought he was going to go. I mean, I'll admit I took the L many times last summer. It wasn't my best summer in relation to transfers, but that happens. But De Gea on a new contract, that would be massive news. That would be almost curtains to this Real Madrid thing that just seems to happen year after year.
It would be, and he will sign a new contract because we're just going to throw a load more money at him. So it'd be stupid not to, even if he wanted to leave. That's the fickle nature of football these days. The contract actually means nothing, but I'm all for it. I think he's been our outstanding performer this season, and it must be so soul-destroying. I did feel sorry for Southampton a little bit because every time they broke through our defence, which was bloody hard, you then got David De Gea in front of you, the best goalkeeper in the world, bar none, but for me. And that must be depressing to play against. I think he's phenomenal. He deserves it. And, yeah, bring it on. The Luke Shaw, I to be honest, I've gone off the Luke Shaw bandwagon a little bit, to be honest. Not that I don't back him. I still think he will do great things. I just think for the minute that he probably deserves not to be anywhere near our team, and he really needs to work on his fitness. And I want him to come back, a superstar player. And he's got to now displace not only Daley Blind, Darmian, also Ashley Young, who at the minute is kind of owning the left-back position. So Luke Shaw's got a really tough season, and this is make or break for him. So I really hope it works out for the better. But if it doesn't, you could only say that he's got himself to blame, to be honest, because he has had a few opportunities. I know he got unlucky with that injury, but after that, he's kind of been up and down. So, but what I was reading on Twitter earlier, and I did mention it earlier as well, I'm reading all these little transfer rumours and little gossips, which is what I'm actually loving reading at the minute, because it's actually starting to look like people want to play for Manchester United again. And I know it sounds like a crazy thing, but after the David Moyes Van Gaal era, no one really wanted to play for us. And to be honest, I didn't blame them, which is why I thought it was such a shock that Pogba came when he did. But now Jose's turned this around, and players are sort of wanting to fight for their transfer to United again, which is what I'm loving seeing. So all these players like the Luke Shaws, they really have to work hard for their new contracts, because there's a long list of other people that would be willing to fill that position if they're not up to the task. And that's where I'd go back to Mkhitaryan again as well. What Flex was saying, he has got to improve, and there is people over his shoulder, and the jury's out on him for me.
I think it's a great point that, we were talking about this on the watch along yesterday. The big difference between last year is that the bench is so strong, and not necessarily in ability, but in passion, like Ross was saying there. You've got Herrera, who, maybe wasn't that good against Southampton, but he's running around like a rabid dog trying to get into the tackle and force his way into the team. Obviously, Martial comes on and puts in Ballon d'Or performances, even if he gets 5 minutes. And Lingard is the same. And Smalling's done well. I thought he did well in the US Tour as well. Everybody wants to be part of this because they know something big's going to happen. And that feeds itself into transfers, where maybe we were chucking money at players in the past, begging them to come and do a project. Whereas now it's like, agents are probably ringing us up. Forest Edge says, I don't know what this channel does. I've just found it randomly. Good evening, by the way. Good evening to Forest Edge. This is the United Stand, Manchester United's biggest independent fan channel. We're live every night at 8 o'clock. We're live for every match doing watch-alongs. Loads and loads of content. Best Manchester United fan community around. Live comments up alongside us. Click that subscribe button. Get involved. You won't be disappointed. You've found a fantastic community. Unless you're an Arsenal fan, in which case you're going to hate it. But what I wanted to... there's something I need to remind myself about, but what I wanted to ask Flex was, because I don't know what your thoughts are on this, and there was something, Luke Shaw. Ross says he's not quite on the Luke Shaw bandwagon at the moment. What's your thoughts about Luke Shaw?
Yeah, Luke Shaw. I mean, I think I'm starting to come off the wagon as well. I mean, when he first came, he was a really exciting prospect. 30 million from Southampton, had an amazing couple of seasons prior to that, and you're thinking, these are the sorts of players that, as Manchester United, we should be linked with. These are the sorts of players that we want in around our team to have the best of our country, and it just hasn't gone that way. Yes, he's had his problems with injury. Yes, he's had his problems with state of mind. Yes, he's had his problems with fitness, and I just think there's only so long you can go with those excuses. Jose's always demanding more. When I see him, I see all these I don't know if you guys have seen him, on these previews that he has on Sky, and he's giving it the spiel of, I think this time's my time. I think this is finally going to be it for me. It's all good saying these things, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. Yes, okay, you get a broken leg and things like that. It's difficult to come back in it, and it does have a lot to do with mindset. I do agree with the fact that people say, he's overweight. He looks overweight. I do say that I don't think it's a case of that. He is quite a stocky kind of player. If you look at how Rooney always was, he has that kind of build that kind of is a bit on the chubbier side. I think that's just how he's always going to be. He's not going to look slim and trim. That's just not his body type. But in terms of him making it at Manchester United, I'm really starting to doubt that. And this is the Premiership. We're one of the top clubs in the world, and we can't hang along for too long, unfortunately. And my advice to Luke Shaw is, I think this is make or break this season. I know we've been saying it over the last couple, but I really think Mourinho will either think he's part of it or he's not, and buy in the summer and replace him, because there's been a good little tussle for a left back position. Daley Blind tried to lock it down. Darmian's put in some good performances, but still hasn't managed to lock it down. And we've even converted Ashley Young into that area, so we haven't really sorted that over the last well, since we've lost Evra, to be honest with you. So it's been there for the taking, and he hasn't managed to get himself in a position to really make it a situation where there is no other choice but him. He's failed to do that, and I think his days could be numbered if he doesn't pull his finger out once he is fit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll disagree with you both because that's what the United stand's all about. But it's all about opinion, not disagreeing with each other. But I actually do like Luke Shaw. I think it's all about fitness. If he can stay fit, and I can't give the answer to that, I can't. He could break down next week with another injury, and I think if he does, it gets to the point where he had a catastrophic injury, and you can end up being injury prone for the rest of your life because of that, because the body's compensating for that injury. So if he gets injured again before Christmas, then maybe that is curtains. We are Manchester United at the end of the day. We're not a charity. But if he can stay fit, I think he can solve that left-hand side, because he can put a natural cross in, and I think on his day, he is the best left-back in the country. So I hope it goes that way. I'm still on the bandwagon. Flex and Ross are slightly off it, but nothing wrong with that. I don't disagree with their opinions. Well, I do, but I don't disagree with their logic. I'm just going to give them a little bit more and hope that it happens, which I think the lads are as well, to be fair. Talking about charities, I just must remember this. Very important. There's a link in the video description, a GoFundMe for Kieran. Katie Graham, who messages me all the time about United Stand stuff, obviously a fan of what we do and the community as well. So she let me know about this. I think it's a family friend, Kieran Hackers, who's 17 years of age, a Manchester United fan, Manchester United mad, and he's been diagnosed with terminal cancer. I think he's got between 4 and 6 months to go. We've said that we'll contribute a bit of money to it because he's got a bit of a bucket list, wants to go and see United play and everything like that. The link to the GoFundMe page is in our video description. Even if you can give a couple of quid or anything, it's up to you. We're just leaving it open for you because he is a United fan. Obviously tragic what's happening, and we're going to contribute anyway. But just if you want to, great, but we just wanted to just give a bit of a shout out from the United Stand, because any help we can do towards it, we will do. So I don't really know what to say, Kieran, but I'm sure you're going to get what you want in relation to going to watch United, and I hope you enjoy it, pal, and thoughts are with you. Anyway, let's move on. Lukaku, Ross. I just want to generally talk about Lukaku a bit, because Mourinho sort of said himself last night that he obviously spent a lot of money on him, expected him to be a success, but he's probably exceeded that success so far. Because when I look at it, and I've got to be honest here, I normally will just back up my opinion and say it's my opinion, but I wasn't the only one saying this. Gary Neville said it, Paul Scholes said it, had doubts about Lukaku in relation to, can he do it again in the big moments, and obviously his first touch. I mean, we spoke earlier, 1 chance, 1 goal yesterday. That's brilliant. And obviously Morata was the player that Mourinho wanted. I put my hand up, I'll take the L. I wanted Morata over Lukaku. I still think Morata's a very good player, by the way, as he proved yesterday. But I wouldn't swap Morata for Lukaku, because Lukaku, you spoke about it, Ross, you know what he brings to the team.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, actually, with how he started, because he did score so many goals for Everton, and we were always going to create so many more chances in Everton. And I think we were always going to create more chances than last season, because we're an improving squad. The one thing I will say is I honestly think if we had the Zlatan of last season that wasn't injured, he'd have scored probably about the same amount of goals. I don't think we would have won as many games, because I think the style of play would have changed. But I think Lukaku he is reaping the rewards of playing with a very creative team at the minute. But you've got to be in the right position, and that's what he is. He's phenomenal at that. So I think you've got to take your hat off to him, because I think he's equalled the record of Louis Saha at United for scoring in consecutive games since his debut, something like that. Anyway, so he's doing well, doing really well, and I'm pleased that we've got him. I think against Southampton, I would have liked to run the channels a little bit more to relieve our defence, because it did seem like we couldn't get out. But that's the only negative that I've seen from him, to be honest. But apart from that, I think he's been fantastic. So bring it on. And I wouldn't swap him for Morata at all. I'm not going to mention Harry Kane, because I do really rate him, but I'm just pleased we've got Lukaku, and I think he'll end up being top goal scorer and firing us to another Premier League title, hopefully.
Yeah, if you like that sort of thing, people are getting quite excited about who's going to win the Golden Boot. Harry Kane, Aguero, Morata, Lukaku. To be honest, I ain't bothered. If Lukaku gets 30 goals, then and we win the title. I don't care whether he wins the Golden Boot or not. But Lukaku flex, I mean, has he surprised you? Was he somebody you wanted? Would you preferred somebody else? Success story, isn't it, really?
Lukaku, absolute bad boy. Absolute bad boy. I mean, he's just been brilliant since he's come. I know there was a lot of question marks over people putting him down before he come to us. You know, his touch isn't good, his link-up play is not good enough. To a certain degree, I think he's put a lot of that to bed because he's come and done what everyone knows he can do, and that's score goals in this league consistently. Since he's been on loan from Chelsea, West Brom, consistent goals. You know, that's all he does. The guy's just a goal scorer. He's big, he's strong, he's dynamic. And I think he gives us a different way of playing, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zlatan's an absolute legend and scored a bag full of goals last year. But I was a fond believer of sometimes, you know, when things aren't going right, you get Zlatan dropping into the midfield, trying to come and collect the ball because he's that kind of player. He can do that, but it's killing us, absolutely killing us. With Lukaku, he can go the other way. We can play a 30-yard ball down into a channel and he can get us up the pitch and relieve pressure. He can hold the ball up. He can bring people into play. And we know he can finish. The biggest question over him was, can he do it week in, week out for a club like Manchester United? Can he do it when his team have got the ball most of the time over the opponents? And so far, I think he's got, is it 8 and 8 in all comps? You can't say further than that. It's the biggest test for me will be what happens when we play again the so-called Big Five. We go away to City. He's only going to get 2 chances. Does he take it? We go away to Liverpool, etc., and so on. Is he going to take those big chances? But the evidence suggests right now that the answers to those questions will be yes.
Yeah, and Paul Robinson in the live comments, a few people saying what a comment, and I think it is a really good comment. He says, Morata's the better player, but Lukaku's what we need. And before you start jumping on him and going, oh, Paul, you're talking rubbish, I think he's spot on. I really do, because I think Morata technically is a better player. His finishing is better. He's got better technique. But Lukaku suits Manchester United far better because that power, that strength, is so, and that pace, it just suits us. It creates so much space, and then we create space, and then we create the chances that he thrives on. I mean, he's not. Even that finish yesterday, I know he's only 2 yards out, but he didn't hit it in smoothly. He just sort of blasted it, and it, you know, he has missed chances like that Stoke one in the last 5 minutes, but it's fine because what he actually brings, the work ethic, the hard work, the ability to occupy 2 centre backs on his own. Morata can't do that. Morata's not got that beast mode. So look, I like Morata. I don't want comparisons of who's better, Lukaku and Morata, because I think they bring totally different things to the team. And I don't wish Morata good luck, even though I would have welcomed him at United, because he's a Chelsea player now. But I wouldn't swap Lukaku for anything. I think he's been fantastic. I'm going to take some of your comments for the lads in a minute, but there was one thing that was in my head from before that I really want to chuck to both of them. The great thing about the evolution of Manchester United this season is that we're sort of looking at Crystal Palace next week as a given 3 points. And I think if we drew that game, there would be, you know, riots, because we should beat Crystal Palace at Old Trafford next week. If you're going to win the title, you've got to beat them and hopefully boost the goal difference. So then we go into the international break at joint top at least, but City play Chelsea, so maybe even we'll be top, but we'll definitely be joint top if we beat Palace. Come back from the international break, the first Saturday, lunchtime at Anfield, away, Ross. How do United approach that game? Would you be bothered if we sat back, frustrated the hell out of them, and took a point?
No, I wouldn't be happy with a point because we did that last season. The reason why I hesitated is because I think the way to play, especially at Anfield, is to sit back because their only real way of scoring is to hit teams on the break. And if you take that away from them, then they haven't really got a lot else. And the way we are now, That for me is the game where we play Lukaku, Rashford, and Martial, and then just the rest can be all defenders as far as I care, because them three would absolutely punish them, and their defence is all over the show. A little bit of pace running at them, and they'll crumble. You're right. That is the game to look forward to. Palace is a given, even though they've got the tactical masterclass. It is Roy Hodgson managing them now. I still think they'll lose quite convincingly. So. That's the game for me. That's the one where we can all really look forward to. And it's going to be interesting to see if Paul Pogba, I reckon he'll be fit. It'd be interesting to see if he walks back into the starting 11 or whether Jose decides to bench him. But I definitely think he'll be available for selection. But yeah, sit back against them. I wouldn't want the point. It's a win or nothing for me because we've too many draws at Anfield. But you have to sit back against them. You can't go out and attack them because they will hit you on the break.
Yeah, Flex, a lot of people saying this, that they'd love to see Martial, Rashford and Lukaku set free and just play a midfield three, maybe Fellaini, Herrera, Matic, or if Pogba's fit, put him in instead of Herrera, and then just defend and hit him on the break with the three, and that would be the perfect tactics for Anfield. Do you think Mourinho would do that?
I hate to spoil the party, guys. I think there's no chance of Mourinho playing that expansive at Anfield. I do agree. Last year I was massively disappointed with how we performed. Although we got the point and frustrated the hell out of Liverpool, we are Man United and they are our biggest rivals, and we should be going to give them a game to play them off the park. However, this is Jose Mourinho, and in the big games, his philosophy is almost, on a title chase. Let's not lose to the big ones away from home. Do them at home and beat the smaller teams around him. That is how Mourinho works. Does it fit in with the DNA of Man United? No, but unfortunately, when you get a manager like Mourinho, he's not going to change his way of thinking overnight or over a season or two, and I think we're going to have to accept that. I would like to see us have a go at Liverpool. We can see they're fragile at the back, their keeper is awful, they haven't addressed any of their defensive problems from last year, so they are definitely there for the taking. However, we all know at Anfield, they do like to start quick, they do like to be on the ball, and if you make a mistake, sort of similar to Arsene Wenger, which is sort of playing the same style against everybody and not respecting your opponent, you can get undone. Liverpool, let's make no mistakes, as bad as they are at the back, going forward, if you're not switched on and you're not solid and you're not compact, they will rip holes for you. They will. A forward line of Mane, Salah, Firmino, Coutinho now back in the team. They've got Lallana to come back. They've got some really dynamic, forward-thinking players. So it's about how we exploit it, and sometimes going all guns blazing and thinking, well, do you know what? We'll go with you toe to toe. Attacking wise, that can be the wrong option, and I do think Mourinho will play caution to the wind. I don't think there's any chance of him, especially he hasn't done it in the last couple of games, playing what we really want to see, which is Lukaku, Rashford, and Martial as a free. I just can't see it happening. I think he'll always go for that bit of caution. Let's frustrate them. Let's hit them where we can. But like I said, that's not me being negative. I do want us to play a lot more attacking than we did last year, because last year I was literally looking at it thinking, what is going on here? We look like a side who's come from the Championship who are literally trying to just do anything for a point. It was really negative, and it's not how we wish to see Man United play. So we do need to go with a bit more forward thinking, but not in the sense of going all out attack. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you're spot on, Mourinho. We spoke about this a few weeks ago as well. That we had the warning sign towards the end of last season as well when we played City away from home, and a lot of fans wanted us to go and give them a game, and we totally and utterly parked the bus. I think that was a draw as well, but City played us off the park and they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. But we showed no intent to win it, which was odd. But as we were speaking about a few weeks ago, Mourinho looks at a season and when he's on form, he dissects it. And as Flex was saying there, win your home games, beat the lesser teams, and then away to the top teams, just make sure you don't get beaten. And that's the blueprint to winning a title. So yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see us pack the defence and the midfield, and then just more or less say to people like Pogba and Matic, just hit Rashford, Martial or Lukaku with a long ball and use that pace and power. But yeah, it's probably more likely we'll see grafters in there. He may even go with the 5-3-2. Might go 5-3-2 and use Young and Valencia as the sort of width, but basically they're fullbacks with a back three. But intriguing game, and I do think it will be an intriguing game because I'll be stunned if we don't beat Palace next week. Talking of next week though, City versus Chelsea at Chelsea next Saturday. We've not briefed this. I'm thinking in my head what result I want. What result would you like next week, Ross?
Draw, to be honest, all day, because Chelsea, even though it's 3 points, I think they're behind us, they're still a title threat. They are looking good at the minute, so we can't just look at City. So it's a draw all day. But to be honest, regardless, any result is great, because if City win, it's nice to have Chelsea 6 points behind us. If Chelsea win, it's nice that we will hopefully be 3 points ahead of all of our rivals. So it's a win-win, absolutely, regardless, as long as we beat Palace. But you can't say, oh, you know, we want Chelsea to win, because they are definitely still a title threat.
Yeah, and I was looking actually that we play Chelsea away on Bonfire Night, November the 5th, and if we're still top of the league by then I think we are seriously in a title fight. But just to make it slightly harder for you, Flex, you can't pick a draw. Who would you rather lost, Chelsea or City?
Oh, now you're asking. It's got to be City. I think with City, they're literally smashing teams left, right, and centre, and they look so good going forward, as per usual. I mean, they did the same thing last year, sort of winning 10 games on the bounce, and then they hit a slump. So they're getting excited over that side of over Manchester. So I think there's nothing better than them losing. But I think, like Ross said, it's a win-win. I mean, when you two rivals play against each other, I think all we need to do is concentrate on the Palace game, which I'm sure we will, and win convincingly, and make sure we get our 3 points on the board, because we're going to have a really tough October when we start going away to Liverpool, away to Chelsea. We haven't been tested yet, and it's not me, you know, being a negative guy, but we haven't been tested against any substantial, you know, what we would call fellow title challengers. So it's going to be really interesting to see how we fare up and what our tactics are, and see if we've progressed. That's the real key. Don't get me wrong. Yes, we've progressed in terms of we've beaten teams we would have drawn against last year, where we've dropped points, etc. But the real big tests really lie ahead, and that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think the draw is the obvious result, but I wouldn't mind Chelsea winning next week. I think it would be. I don't think Chelsea are going to win the title this year. I think they're doing well. They're doing slightly better than I predicted they would. But they had a very easy Champions League game, and I think when the Champions League gets going for them, they won't be used to that. And I don't think Chelsea have got a great squad, so I think Chelsea will drop more points. I think City getting a bloody nose sooner rather than later and taking a blow would be beneficial for ourselves. But having said that, I don't buy into this City loving, because I watched that game, I think it was Bournemouth, where Mike Dean added on all that time and they scraped a win. I also watched the Liverpool game, and I know they won that 5-0, but Liverpool were the better side until Mane got sent off. I know they were losing 1-0, Liverpool, at the time, but Liverpool were the better side and City looked vulnerable. So I think City have been very fortuitous so far this season, because they've had a couple of wins where, I mean, they've won games very well, but they've had a couple of games where they could have blown it, and I don't think anybody can level any luck against us so far, Ross. If you look at our games, yeah, we might not have played well, but we've certainly not been lucky. I can't imagine anybody saying, well, Southampton deserved a point yesterday. Well, you didn't, because we had the best chance and we scored it. We might have been lucky, well, I don't think we have. I don't think we've been lucky at all. We might not have played that well at times, but nobody could say we've been lucky in any game.
No, we haven't. And by lucky, I assume you're kind of referring to a little bit of what referees' decisions, which is what went heavily against us last season. And this season, you know, we've been making our own luck, which is what you've got to do if you are going to mount a title challenge. You can't rely on these. You know, was it a penalty? Was it not? You've got to alleviate that, and you've just got to be scoring goals, you know, consistently. So no, there's no luck at all in where we are and what we're doing. And you are right. City have got an awful lot of luck, and there's been a lot of games, referees' decisions. I think there was even a few yesterday that I was a little bit shocked by with the refs. So they're dropping clangers everywhere for City. And hopefully, you know, we'll get a little bit of that refereeing luck at some point this season, because you kind of do need it to win a league. You need luck as well as, you know, power, pace, and victory. So, yeah, there's no luck of where we are and what we're doing. And but we will need it at some point this season, because we definitely didn't have it last season.
Yeah, and Tyrone Williams in the live comment says United are working really hard, and like Ross says, you create your own luck if you work hard. Don't forget to drop a like on the video tonight. Sunday Night Live, got Ross and Flex on with me. Flex's debut, and obviously Ross is here every week as well. Really enjoyed the show. It's whizzed by, and it's good to get back up to having 3 people on since we sacked Alex. We didn't really sack Alex. He works on Sunday nights, but I like the dynamic of a 3. So please do drop a like if you're enjoying it. I just want to say as well, Flex, I'm going to chuck a difficult question at you. Well, you might find it difficult. Me and Ross have obviously said at the start of the season what we expect of United, but I just want to give a bit of a background first. Everyone's sort of like saying, let's go toe-to-toe with City. I agree with it. Let's do that. And at the moment, the results are reflective of that. But I also want to say that to go from 6th to the title is big. It's very big. And you can almost say, if we go from 6th to comfortably 2nd or 3rd, that is still progress. But we're greedy. We're United. We want better. What do you think? Where do you see United in May? Do you see them as champions, or do you see them as, you know, settled in top 4? What do you really feel about United? You know, being honest, I know you're a United fan, but it doesn't mean you have to say we're going to win it.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. For me, even throughout the summer, I was adamant in saying this is the Premier League, and no top team has a divine right to win this league. It's such a difficult league, and all the rivals are good. What I would say is, what we need to have, what would be a failure this year would be not challenging for the title, making a convincing title challenge. I'm not saying finishing 2nd is good and finishing 3rd is good. However, if we don't challenge for the title convincingly, this season is a failure. We've spent huge amounts of money. Mourinho has had his bedding in period. He's had his time to mould the mentality of the squad to switch from a very boring, stale Van Gaal over to his way of thinking and change the mentality of the players. He's had that now. There can be no excuses of not challenging for the league. So that's what I would say my biggest thing is. Where do I see us in May? It's too early to say in terms of, do I think we'll win? I think, like I agree with a lot of the pundits, I think whoever does finish above us will win the league. So I'll leave you guys to decipher that little bit there.
Okay. Tomorrow night, a few people on about how do we get on. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, is the Skype show. Skype in, live from 8 o'clock. Skype Goldbridge, all one word on Skype, and we'll be taking your calls as we did last night at 8 o'clock. Remember, after United games now at 8 o'clock, if it's a daytime kickoff, 3 o'clock or whatever, we'll do a show at 8 o'clock for you where you can call in. And Monday night as well, and sometimes a Thursday night. Now we're not in the Europa League. Which is why Arsenal are playing tomorrow night, because they're not in the Champions League. They're playing somebody on Thursday. Been there, won that. Anyway, Maya says, Mark, stop writing United and Mourinho off. You couldn't. How many times do you want to be wrong in a sentence? I get so much stick because I'm apparently right up Mourinho's bottom, and I actually predicted United would win the league. So wrong on both those points. Anyway. Thanks everybody. Make sure you've dropped a like. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I have. It's whizzed by. We've done a full hour on a Sunday for the first time in a while. We normally call it a day at 45 minutes. So really enjoyed that. Thanks for coming on, Ross. And you can shout your Twitter out, even though I know it by heart now.
Cheers, Mark. At has a 90.
At has a 90. And Ross, obviously, every Sunday night. And watch-alongs as well normally comes on for the team news. So you can follow him at has a 90. And Flex, fantastic debut. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have very much enjoyed it. Really exciting, and I've had a great evening. It's been good.
And are you on Twitter, pal? I'm not following you yet, so obviously I don't know.
Yeah, yes, I am. If you can get at me at flex_live_o, all one.
At flex_live_o.
Yep, I'll put it in the comments. Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, well. We can't do it without you lot. I know there's 3 of us talking through here, but we can't do it without the live comments. That's what makes the show. So thanks to everybody, as per usual, on the live comments. You've been absolutely fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's nearly the end of the weekend, but not quite. So I hope you enjoy your last few hours of it, whatever you're doing this week. Make sure you brighten up your Monday with the Skype show tomorrow night. We're getting fantastic callers at the moment, and just come on and be opinionated. That's what we want. That's what the United Stand's all about. So. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will speak to you all tomorrow. Have a great start to your week, and United, you know what? Just smile. Just smile. It's going fantastically well. I'll speak to you all soon.